Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to meet the most famous lawman of the Wild West, Tombstone, Arizona, a town built on silver, greed, and blood. And into its dust rode one man who would change it forever, Wyatt Earp, lawman, gambler, gunfighter. To some, a hero who brought order. To others, the man who destroyed a town. Wyatt Earp wasn't born a legend. Born in Illinois in 1848, he drifted west with his family, chasing frontier dreams. He worked as a stagecoach driver, a buffalo hunter, even a saloon keeper. But where he truly made his mark was as a lawman. In Dodge City, Kansas, Wyatt Earp earned his name. With a cold on his hip and nerves of steel, he broke up barroom brawls, faced down drunks, and shot straight when he had to. People learned quick you didn't cross Wyatt Earp. By 1879, Wyatt, his brothers, and his common-law wife Josephine headed for Tombstone, Arizona. It was booming, rich with silver mines and crawling with outlaws. The Earps wanted fortune. But what they found was a powder keg. Tombstone was ruled by the cowboys, a gang of cattle rustlers and gunmen led by the Clantons and McClorys. Robberies, killings, and bribes ran wild. Wyatt and his brothers tried to bring law and order, but the clash was inevitable. October 26, 1881, the gunfight at the Corral. 30 seconds of gunfire that changed the West. When the smoke cleared, 3 cowboys lay dead. Wyatt Earp's name was forever burned into legend, but Tombstone didn't find peace. The cowboys struck back. Virgil got hurt in an ambush, Morgan was killed while playing pool, and Wyatt's response? The vendetta ride. With Duck Holliday at his side, Wyatt hunted the cowboys across the desert, gunning them down one by one. Wyatt Earp's war crushed the cowboys, but it also crushed Tombstone. The mines ran dry, businesses fled, and the once booming town turned to dust. Some called him a savior. Wyatt Earp lived into old age, far from the dusty streets where he earned his name. He died in Los Angeles in 1929, still remembered as the man who stood tall at the Corral. He was a gambler, a survivor, and a man whose choices saved a town or destroyed it. I'm the host. A lot has been said about Wyatt Earp. Some say he was a homicidal maniac. Others claim he was a hero. So what is the truth? Where did the myths come from? And how did they persist for so long? Well, let's start at the beginning. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp was born on March 19, 1848 in Monmouth, Illinois. His father, Nicholas Porter Earp, was a farmer and hatter who had served in the War of 1812. His mother, Lavinia Moss Earp, was a former slave who had been freed by her owner after marrying Nicholas. From an early age, Wyatt displayed the traits that would make him famous: cool under pressure, quick with a gun, and unafraid of authority. After graduating from Monmouth College in 1866, Wyatt went to Kansas to join his brothers, Robert and James, who were working as buffalo hunters. Wyatt quickly adapted to frontier life and learned how to handle himself in dangerous situations. Soon he was working as a jailer and police officer in Dodge City, Kansas, where he gained a reputation for being tough and uncompromising. One night in 1871, Wyatt was involved in a deadly shootout with a group of cowboys who refused to leave his jail. Another time, he single-handedly broke up a major cattle rustler ring. These stories and many others like them cemented Wyatt's reputation as a fearless lawman, but the reality was more complex. See, while Wyatt was known as a fierce fighter, he rarely initiated violence unless absolutely necessary. In fact, he preferred to use his skills as a mediator and negotiator to resolve disputes peacefully. For example, in Wichita, Kansas, Wyatt successfully negotiated a truce between 2 feuding gangs of cowboys. He also had a strong sense of justice and was committed to protecting the rights of the underdog. Despite his success in Dodge City, Wyatt eventually left Kansas and moved to Tombstone. Arizona, drawn by the promise of adventure and opportunity. There he joined forces with his brothers and a few close friends to take on the toughest gang in town, the Cowboys. The Cowboys were a group of cattle hands led by the Clanton and McHenry families who controlled much of the town through intimidation and violence. They bribed officials, intimidated witnesses, and even lynched people who crossed them. Wyatt and his allies were determined to stop them. On October 26, 1881, the two sides clashed in a shootout at the OK Corral. The gunfight lasted only 30 seconds, but it was intense and deadly. 3 cowboys were killed and several others wounded. The Earps and their allies suffered no casualties. The gunfight made Wyatt Earp a celebrity. Newspapers across the country ran stories about his bravery and skill. And soon Hollywood was calling, but not everyone was impressed. Many people in Tombstone thought that the gunfight was a hoax staged by Wyatt to attract attention and make money. They accused him of exaggerating the danger and the violence to boost his own ego and profit. Others argued that Wyatt had provoked the gunfight intentionally, or at least failed to prevent it. For example, Wyatt had been warned not to confront the cowboys without backup, but he ignored the advice and rode into the corral alone. He also had a history of feuding with the cowboys dating back to his days in Dodge City. What's more, Wyatt had a shady past that he tried to keep secret. He had been arrested several times for minor offenses and once for a major crime. In addition, he had a gambling problem that had cost him and his brothers dearly. But perhaps the most damaging accusation was that he had lied about the number of gunslingers in his gang. Wyatt claimed that he had a total of 10 deputies, including himself, but witnesses said there were fewer than half that number during the shootout. This raised suspicions that Wyatt had made up the rest to make himself look more heroic. Despite these doubts and rumors, Wyatt Earp became the most famous lawman of the Wild West. After the gunfight, he continued to work as a sheriff and police officer in various towns, but he also spent a lot of time traveling and entertaining. He appeared in carnivals and rodeos, gave lectures, and participated in sporting events. He even boxed a heavyweight champion named Jack Dempsey. Wyatt was always looking for a good time, and he never turned down a chance to make money. Wyatt Earp's reputation took another hit in 1882, when he and his brothers went on a rampage known as the Vendetta Ride. After Morgan Earp was murdered, Wyatt vowed revenge and set out to kill the cowboys who were responsible. He traveled with a small band of companions, including Doc Holliday, a notorious gambler and gunfighter. Together, they hunted down and killed several members of the Cowboys, including Frank Stillwell, Billy Clausen, and Johnny Ringo. Some historians argue that the Vendetta Ride was a justified response to the murder of Morgan Earp. Others say it was a brutal and unnecessary display of violence. Wyatt defended his actions, claiming that he had to protect himself and his brothers from further attacks. But the truth was more complicated. Wyatt was driven by a combination of grief, anger, and opportunism. He used the murder of Morgan as a pretext to eliminate his enemies once and for all and settle his personal scores. Wyatt Earp died on March 28, 1929, in Los Angeles, California. He was 81 years old. He had lived a long and eventful life filled with adventure, excitement, and controversy. He had been a lawman, a gambler, a gunfighter, a miner, a rancher, and a legend, but what did he leave behind? When Wyatt Earp died, he was a folk hero to some and a symbol of lawlessness to others. His admirers celebrated him as a brave and skillful gunslinger who brought order to the Wild West. His critics condemned him as a ruthless killer who used violence and intimidation to enrich himself. They argued that Wyatt had profited from the chaos and destruction he caused, and that he had exploited Tombstone for his own gain. So what is the truth about Wyatt Earp? Was he a hero or a villain? The answer is neither. Wyatt Earp was a product of his time and place. He was a man of contradictions and complexities who defied easy categorization. He was a lawman who sometimes broke the law. He was a gambler who could shoot straight. He was a killer who hated killing. He was a hero and a villain, a legend and a man. Wyatt Earp's story is a reminder that history is not black and white, and that our heroes are often more human than we think. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, would you please go ahead and hit that like button? Also, if you haven't done so already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be among the first to watch new episodes every week. And if you really want to dive into the Wild West, check out our podcast. We'll see you next time.